Prime Minister, ministers, members of parliament, corporate leaders, ladies and gentlemen. In 1998, we began our journey of partnering Sri Lanka's largest organizations to create better brands and businesses. Over the past 20 years, we have helped them define what they stand for and what they believe. We have created brand strategies that have helped them maintain their position in existing markets, as well as break new ground in emerging categories. And in 2015, exactly 2 years ago, December, we partnered Interbrand, the world's largest and most influential brand consultancy. There was a very clear need in the market for a global player that would be able to bring its world-class strategy, analytics, and design capabilities into the market, especially after 30 years of war. Now, 2 years later, we are very proud to stand here with Interbrand and celebrate the most valuable brands in Sri Lanka, especially because quite a few of them have actually been built by us. Over the past 20 years, we can discern three key trends. First, there is very clearly a widening appreciation among CEOs for the strategic role the brand plays now in transforming businesses and driving growth. Secondly, increasingly, there is an understanding that people are the center of the business, and we require people to actually drive and achieve our strategies and goals. And so the CEOs who are talking to us today are doing so because they understand the clear need of putting people at the center of the organization and building integrated experiences around them. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, and this was the need for Interbrand coming into the market, is that very clearly, the initial burst of growth after the war ended has now once again reached saturation, and logic dictates that the next phase actually has to be beyond our shores. And for that, as our homegrown brands start to expand regionally and strive to and aspire to become best global brands, we need to strengthen the value, the perception, and the performance of Sri Lankan brands. The question then arises, what is the value of a Sri Lankan brand globally? This small insight from British Telecom is very instructive to us, very enlightening. British Telecom conducted widespread research around the world, key markets, and especially Japan, which is a market they were particularly interested in entering and strengthening their presence in. And what they found was that the name British actually stood for old-fashioned, colonial, and nothing to do with being fast-moving, futuristic, innovative, or any of the other associations that are critical to a telecom business. Based on that, they contracted their name to BT. Today is important for several reasons. Firstly, Interbrand now includes Sri Lanka in its best brands list. This is the most prestigious ranking of country brand tables in the entire world. The next thing that is very important is that these brands that make it into the best brands list, like Best Sri Lankan brands, are valuated based on the same brand valuation methodology as Interbrand's best global brands. This is a global process run by a global team and overlooked by Mike Rocha, the head of the global director of brand valuation at Interbrand London. Nishta actually asked what the need was for another table. And what it actually comes down to is this. This actually is a table that has no equal in Sri Lanka. It has no equal globally. It is the most prestigious table in the entire world. And that is because Interbrand's purpose is much, much higher, which is to grow the best Sri Lankan brands into the best global brands. The remaining speakers, Mike, Ashish, and Guido, will talk about this. But essentially, what has happened through this valuation is that each of the brands who were long-listed, as well as short-listed, were measured in terms of performance against the best global brands. So if you were a diversified, you were measured, I beg your pardon, something happened there. If you were diversified, you were measured against the best global brands, diversifieds on the best global brands table, as well as diversifieds regionally. Essentially, your performance has now been benchmarked and measured against the best in the world. Same for financial services, same for beverages. The next thing that I just want to quickly emphasize is that with Interbrand, over the next couple of weeks, months, and years, as we start strengthening our presence in Sri Lanka, is that we will be able to leverage their truly global specific, sector-specific content. There is no consultancy in the world that has this depth and breadth of experience, that handles this depth and breadth of global clients. And what Interbrand is actually giving to us is something quite outstanding, which is an understanding, experience, a set of capabilities that we will be able to harness and combine with the best Sri Lankan brands to drive our growth into global markets. The other thing that will happen is that this will create a platform for acclaimed sector experts to share their views on Sri Lanka. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to quickly introduce the three members of the three senior leaders from the Interbrand team who have joined us today. Ashish Mishra is the Managing Director of Interbrand India. Mike Rocha is the Global Director of Brand Valuation, who has come from Interbrand London. And Guido van Garderen is the Head of Nation Branding and the Strategy Director of Interbrand Germany. Thank you very much.